California, and sometimes it gets a little hectic out there. But right now, we're gonna help you out.
Konnichiwa. My name is Edwin Romo, and this is the third vlog in my series of vlogs on my senior Capstone portfolio project, where I'm discussing the topic of mental health, what we can do as individuals to promote mental health awareness, and a new question that's really stuck with the subject as I've researched it and gone along with it. Why is there such a stigma with mental health, mental disorders, mental illnesses? We can't. My main question is what we can do to promote awareness. Well, how are we going to promote awareness on a subject, on a matter that people really look down upon, something that there's such a bubble of ignorance around where people don't know much, and they just kind of generalize things in this area and mental illnesses. So I decided to ask questions on this as well, and my group subjects, I decided to split it into two groups, adults and teenagers, and see what the difference between their two answers would be, and maybe see some correlations on that. So in this vlog, I will be showing the responses of the two adults. I did interview two adults, two very respectable adults that I personally respect a lot, and I really value their opinions. And let's see their responses. Name for the record, please.
Jerry McKinney.
Thank you. State your name for the record, please.
My name is Mr. Chernus.
Okay.
For the record.
For the record. When I first say the words mental health, what comes to mind?
How we deal with day-to-day things, how it affects us mentally, and when we talk about health, again, we want to have a strong mental health, and it's just basically how we deal with day-to-day life mentally and trying to stay healthy.
Mental health means the ability to deal with the world in an adaptable way, healthy has a lot of different meanings, but in a way that a person feels like they can deal with the stressors in their life, because everybody has their own different stressors.
Okay. How important is mental health to you on a scale from 1 to 10? How would you rate it as important in your life?
Oh, for me, mental health is a 10. And the reason I say 10, I tell people my peace of mind code, my mental health is priceless. And I pretty much I don't sacrifice my mental health and my peace of mind for anything.
10. Mental health is everything.
Mental health is everything.
I shouldn't say that because physical health is probably just as important. But without one, the other kind of doesn't make you a happy person. And happiness, mental health is it's about happiness, but people define happiness in a lot of different ways. What do you think of when you hear the word happiness? And everybody has a different answer. So there's a lot of different ways to answer that question.
Okay, thank you. Now I'm going to name off a few mental disorders, and I want you to rate them from 1 to 10 on how familiar you are with them. So let's say I name one, and you're well versed in what it is, and you're going to say 10. If you don't know much about it, you'll say 1.
Okay.
Okay, here we go. Okay, anorexia.
10 is the most, and 1 is the least.
Yes. Anorexia.
About a 4.
Okay, anorexia, I would say a 7.
Bulimia.
Dang, that would be about a 3.
6.
Obsessive compulsive disorder.
Probably about a 5.
Probably an 8.
Okay. Anxiety.
10.
8.
Depression.
8.
Probably an 8.
Bipolar disorder.
Probably about 5.
Probably a 9, because I have a relative that has that.
Oh, you do.
and schizophrenia?
Probably about a 7.
I would say a 9,
Okay, thank
but
you.
it's not a 10 because I've never had a relative that has had it. I think people that know the most about any of those disorders are people that have lived with it. You know, I've seen it from another person.
Do you think there is a stigma associated with mental disorders?
Yes, and it's unfortunate because when you have a mental disorder, that's your reality, and sometimes people cannot identify with your own personal reality.
Of course. And it's not a good stigma.
And why so?
Well, because it's the unknown. People fear the unknown. And anything that humans don't know enough about, there's some mystery.
So, do you think there is a correlation between physical and mental illnesses?
Yes, I think the mind and the body do work together. Oftentimes, if you're depressed, you're not going to be too enthusiastic about working out, things like that. So I think they are connected.
Okay. So you did mention that when you suffer from depression or any type of mental illness, that there will be less motivation to do things,
Right.
carry out life on a day-to-day basis.
Mm-hmm.
How strongly do you believe in that to be true?
Pretty strongly. Some people deal with it in different ways, and some people have learned to cope with it. But again, having that mental stress every day, all day long, sometimes they're confronted with that rather than being motivated to do other things. Their motivation is probably usually trying to get through this mental disorder or mental illness that they have rather than, accomplishing other things.
Yeah, thank you. Oftentimes, these illnesses are referred to as the invisible illnesses because they can't be seen, as opposed to a physical illness like, let's say, cancer or diabetes.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think is the major difference between these two things, between mental illnesses and physical illnesses, and why people treat them differently?
Well, when you can see someone's physical illness, their physical scars versus the invisible ones, it's a little bit more, I guess, difficult to deal with and accept because you can't see it. Especially when you're talking about anxiety, sometimes you can't see it right there, or maybe even depression, but you can see the physical part of it. And let me give you another example real quick. We talk about the military. They say people who can return from the military after serving in war, they say the biggest scars are the ones you can't see. You might be able to see someone with a prosthetic leg, but you might not see someone suffering from, the PTSD.
And PTSD is also a major illness. Not listed here, but it is. Okay. Considering that 1 in 4 adults suffer from a mental illness at least once a year or in their lifetimes, and 5% suffer from serious illnesses like schizophrenia or bipolar disorder, why don't you think people seek treatment as much as they should? Only about 40% seek treatment.
That's a good question. I don't know why people don't seek the treatment necessary to deal with these mental illnesses that they have. Maybe it's the label, the stigma that's associated with it. I don't know why they would.
And considering that label that is placed on these mental disorders, what do you think is the media's role, or the movies and things like movies or short clips? What do you think is their involvement in this whole thing? Do you think they represent them well in on screen as they do in real life?
In the movies, yes. Then afterwards, I think we just go back to our own realities, and maybe forget about it. But we probably definitely need to put a more emphasis on these invisible illnesses or invisible disorders. There has to be a more emphasis on it because it is that person's reality. And I think sometimes we forget, no matter how small or how large this illness is, it's that person's reality, and I think we tend to overlook it.
There's always room for what I call misinformation. And misinformation is why movies sell so well. When they portray a character that has a mental illness as being a homicidal maniac killer, people don't know enough about disorders to understand that it's really not the case. That's not the typical person with a mental disorder. People with mental disorders don't usually, the vast majority, don't harm others, don't commit crimes, some hurt themselves. There's some truth to their portrayal, and there's some fiction when you're looking at different characters in movies.
Okay. And what do you think about the politicians' roles?
I don't put a lot of stock into politicians. Could they play a bigger role? Yes, it seems like they don't play a bigger role until it happens to them, or they know someone personally that's involved in a sort of a physical disorder or a mental disorder or illness. Then it becomes personal, and they might start a movement there. But other than that, it's just lip service.
Okay. There are many factors that come into play when someone develops a disorder, and that may be genetics, neurochemistry, their environment, their work and home life, traumatic life experience, and 50% of people's illnesses start at the age of 14, and 75% develop by the age of 24. Considering this, why don't you think we're putting we're raising more awareness with the youth?
We are or are not?
Are not.
Probably because it's something that we gloss over. We don't recognize it in youth. The youth also might not be able to communicate it to the adults that they're suffering. Sometimes youth want to keep it to themselves because they don't want to be considered an outcast in their own age group. So they keep it to themselves. They think they might be able to deal with it themselves. I'm sure there's a lot of reasons as to why we don't focus on it. But I feel comfortable saying that if a student comes to us, we're not going to turn our backs on them. I think we're going to utilize the resources and whatever means we have to help this student if they come to us.
And considering these illnesses are chronic illnesses and they are very real, they're actually diseases of the mind, and we can both agree that there is treatment, right?
I would like to think so.
There is treatment, whether it's a cognitive behavioral talk therapy or whether it's with pharmaceuticals. There is treatment, and there is actually like $190 billion that aren't used up from like the bill that's passed for these disorders. What can we do as individuals to promote health awareness and get these people to seek treatment and get treated to get better?
Me personally, in my class, I usually try to bring awareness to mental illness, mental disorders, because I have my own personal experience with it in my family. Also have some anxiety that I have to deal with, during Christmas time myself, and that's just my reality. So I try to bring awareness to students and understanding that this is their reality again, and it's serious. So that's what I do, just to bring awareness to other students, and if they are suffering any of these mental illnesses or disorders, that they should seek some sort of help. So that's what I do personally. Overall, as a community, I guess we could just make sure that we are available to people who suffer from these mental disorders or illnesses, and then let them know that we're out there should they ever seek the services that's available to them.
Thank you very much.
Okay.